As expected, the choice of Senator Kashim Shatima, former governor of Borno State, has continued to generate heated debate among Nigerians, with many saying Tinubu choosing a fellow Muslim was quite insensitive and that it might prove to be a hard sell in the South. We have joining us virtually from Zoom, via Zoom rather, from Asaba, the convener of the National Political Equity Movement, Ambassador Chibuzo Okereke, to talk about this. Thank you for joining us, Chibuzo.
Good morning.
Well, welcome on the program. I'm sure you've been following the discussions since the moment the APC flag bearer Bola Tinubu announced his running mate to be Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That has put to rest all the initial speculations that we've heard about the Muslim ticket. It's now real. And several reactions have trailed that decision. Let's start with your own take on that decision.
I can tell you, Vivid, that His Excellency Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu a very poor decision in selecting his running mate. You have to know that considered, including me, as a religious war or prioritization of religion in the presidential political space. Let me say this. Every country in the world emerges within the realms of certain fundamental principles and objectives. And each nation and country has a history, its configuration. Nigeria is not an exception, no matter how we want to pretend about it. In Nigeria, we emerged from our settled kingdom, caliph, and all that. And then there are certain important ingredients for our social life. Faith is that one of the important pillars and configuration of the nation, and it has been essential. And one thing again that is important is that for every faith you profess, there are enough competent that can deliver on the mandate of any political responsibility. For instance, since Nigeria's independence, prior to 1960, one of the most fundamental questions in the national question discussion or discourse was about the minority interest. That was what led to the Willick report that eventually gave us the Midwestern region in 1960. And also faith, very critical in the organization of the Nigerian state. And leaders have carefully observed these fundamental principles in making sure there is equity and balance in the transition of political. Now, making this decision is something that has truncated that national paradigm, that thing that is making us to talk about one Nigeria. That is what this decision has, foisted on the people of Nigeria.
All right. All right, Chibuzo, just hold your thoughts there. Sorry, we have to interject. Just hold your thoughts. We'll be back to you shortly. We'll take this short breather and try to get some things sorted. Please stay with us.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. We now have in the studio Mustafa Audu, who is leader of the Progressive Youth Movement, joining us here to talk about the reactions trailing the decision of the APC flag bearer, Bola Tinubu, to pick the former governor of Borno State, Kashim Shatima, as his running mate. A lot of people have talked about the Muslim ticket, and some other people find it offensive. And so we are going to be, talking about this. Well, thank you so much, Mustafa, for joining us on Daybreak.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and happy Salah as well. To be honest,
yeah. So just before you go ahead,
okay.
You've seen the reactions that have trailed this decision. Were you expecting this kind of reactions?
To be honest, I think we're making it's politicians, a lot of politicians and people that are making a big deal out of this. Honestly, what Nigerians truly want is competent leadership. I don't think that people feel, if you go to any village, any local government, and you ask them what they want in their vice president or their president, the first thing they would say is either being a Muslim or a Christian. I think if you're talking about unity of the country, I think it's more south, north, east and west that unites us rather than religion, So I think that competence is what His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has gone for in Kashim Shatima. If you look at him, if you look at his antecedents, if you look at who has come after him, everything that he has done, if you look at Borno, in the midst of Boko Haram, terrorism, it's a well-developed place. It's unbelievable the kind of development that has gone on there. And when he was leaving, his replacement was Zulum. So you can see that his choices in leadership, what he has done right now amongst his businesses, he's a businessman, and this is what this country needs, people that think in terms of business. What he's doing, amongst other things, is solar energy, which you can see that the vice president...
All right. It's a good thing that you've mentioned competence. Yes. But that's also one of the issues that people have raised concerning this issue. They have said that if you're talking competence, all across Nigeria, you could find competent people.
Absolutely.
And they're also saying that if Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was looking for competence, it was possible he could get it in any other religion so that they could be balanced. That's what some people are saying.
I don't think that balance comes in terms of religion. That's what I'm telling you is misguidance. And I'll give you a practical example today. Would you say Christians are safe in terms of terrorism? When these terrorism bandits act, they come and say, oh, you're a Christian, I'm not going to do anything. That doesn't happen. And yet the vice president today is a pastor. Therefore, religion has no bearing on safety, competence, governance.
Okay,
so that's not what...
Okay, so now that you mentioned the vice president,
Yes.
who is a pastor,
Yes.
some pointed to the fact that the same scenario almost played out in 2015. And you had an Asiwaju who currently now is running, and the thoughts at that time was whether or not the president should pick Asiwaju as his running mate, and or not. And then there was a consideration that was made, which is the fact that the president, being a Muslim, shouldn't be having Asiwaju Bola Ahmed, being a Muslim, as running mate, in the sense that so that we don't have this Muslim ticket at that time, and that informed the choice of the APC leader to bring in the current vice president as Osibanjo. So, if religion mattered at that time, why doesn't it matter now?
Religion never mattered then. It's politics. I'm a politician. This is my party.
But leaders of the party at that time, said that the Muslim ticket was not going to win at that time.
Let me say something. It was a way of disqualifying His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Fact. That's it. It was simply a way of he wants it, he's worked hard for it, he brought the components together to make APC work because we had tried alliances previously. The president had tried going on his own previously, but it was obvious that only an alliance would bring us together in order to topple the PDP. And when that alliance was formed, key amongst the people who made this alliance work was Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. So obviously he wanted something in doing that. That's fact. Politics is about interest. His interest then was to run for president or vice president, but he had considered that, President Muhammadu Buhari had the numbers. Even on his own, he always had his 8, 9, 10 million votes. The fact. So in addition to the votes that he can bring on board, we would clinch it. So this was the consideration.
You would have clinched it in 2015?
We clinched, yes.
Okay, wait.
We did win.
Wait. Somebody on the show yesterday said that
Yes.
the APC didn't do that at that time because they were not from the position of strength. They were the opposition at that time. They were not the ruling party. And that was why they could not go ahead, because they knew that could cause problem. Is the APC doing this now because it's the ruling party? And it feels like it has the upper hand.
I'm telling you because I was privy to a lot of things that happened then. And I know that as a way, there's no point mentioning name, it's politics. As a way, some people didn't want him to emerge. And the only valid way of stopping him was to play the religious card. So then
So it's about what some people want.
So it's about interest. And I'm telling you this because if you go to the layman today and you ask them...
So let me put it this way. You said some people didn't want Asiwaju at the time to run.
Yes.
So the religious card was played,
Absolutely.
right? So it is about what some people want
Yes.
now. Not really about
what is good. Yeah, exactly. So
now
now some people, and I'll tell you this, right? Should APC have gone for a northern candidate, they'll say, oh, wait, let me finish.
Sorry,
they would say APC.
this is very important.
Yes, okay, go on.
It's Bola Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu
Yes.
competent at that time?
Yes, absolutely.
Was he competent in 2015?
Absolutely, very competent. And
so why didn't his competency considered at that time?
That's what I'm telling you, that the forces against him, just like we all know that the forces against him prior to the primaries were significant. At that point, they were...
Okay, the forces are not significant.
No, they were. Wait, let me finish. At that point, they were able to surmount him. At this point, he was able to surmount them. That's life. It's a seesaw. So at
So
some
there are
point,
forces at play now within the APC. Is that
always, there are always forces in every single party.
all right. So let's get in our other guest who is joining us via Zoom, Chibuzo. Well, I'm sure you are following all that our guest here in the studio is saying. Apparently, religion, it's no big deal. I mean, it doesn't matter. So, what's your take?
Hear him, probably because of my location. But what I can tell you with respect to my brother there is that I can tell of departure is that he's speaking politics, speaking personal interest, and some kind of Machiavellian tactics of discussing nation building. We are discussing leadership. We are discussing governance. That is the point of departure. You lead a nation that is deeply divided, a nation that from foundation is configured and within this ethnicity there are highly competent people. He has argued, forcefully about the contributions of the presidential candidate of the APC. But I can tell you that there are Christians. For instance, he mentioned Dogara, former Speaker of the House of Representatives. He's a Christian from in the north. The serving secretary to the federal government, Boss Mustafa, made enormous contributions. A very pragmatic politician from the Abiola years. He is there. And so many other prominent northern Christians who knows no other who were born there. They didn't choose their fate. Came to them as a result of practice. So he cannot come and make that argument that is simply political. We must, at this time in our national life, think about nation. And that is what Chapter 2 of our Constitution is about. The fundamental principles and objectives of how governance and democracy should be made to happen in the country. And that is also the sense behind the issue of spread in the country. The people, how can these people make arguments forcefully that power should rotate to the south?
All right,
and
now.
then on one hand, used to be in another line of thought on how. Why did you argue?
All right, so but
to come to the south,
but
for us to have equity and balance. You
all right.
cannot have. You see, I need to make this point. In leadership, don't communicate to your followers or citizens a psychology of dominance, a position, and that is what is going on. And you will not lead when the majority of the country citizenship is having a sense of exclusion and a sense of dominance and subjugation.
Okay,
How
so
do you want to lead a country like that? And that is the contention. So we are arguing for leadership, nation building, and governance, and arguing for politics. And we must end personal the country. And that is the key issue. Yeah.
All right. Well, let me come back to the studio. Mustafa, I understand you're itching to respond to that. Are you concerned about the implication of this on governance? Eventually, if the APC, or I would say the Muslim ticket, is to fly, are you concerned about how this could affect the issue of trust deficits that Nigeria has been dealing with, the issues of national unity and cohesion, and how it affects governance and all of that?
Yeah, absolutely not. I honestly think what is fundamental to Nigerians is that sense of ethnicity rather than a sense of religion. So we believe that power shift, north-south, is more prominent because it carries the nation along than religion. Religion is a personal thing between you and God. But ethnicity in this country is not a personal thing. You know, usually they ask where you're from. Nobody asks what is your religion.
What would you say to
Nigeria?
those who said that? What would you say to those who said that there's a lot of suspicion right now, especially if you look at the insurgency that Nigeria has been dealing with in the past 10 years, the insecurity in the country, and the agenda of the terrorists, you know, and all of that. And if you put all of that together, you know, a lot of mistrust, a lot of suspicion. And so because of that, that could affect even in the way, you know, the people are going to respond to government and everything.
I think this terrorism is an issue that affects us all. I don't think anyone is safe. They don't treat the Muslims any different from the way they treat the Christians. They kidnap everyone the same. They torture and torment people the same. You know, I think it's a collective issue that affects us all. And what we need is real competent leadership with empathy that understands the problem, that can tackle it. I honestly don't believe it's a religious issue, because if it was a religious issue, we have, I think in the Christian faith, being a pastor is up there. So we have a pastor as a vice president, yet these issues are persistent. Therefore, religion is not the issue. So anyone pushing...
There are those who could argue that
Yes,
perhaps if you didn't have a vice president who is a Christian, perhaps maybe the situation could have been worse. There are those who would say that.
The situation, anybody spelling doom and gloom, people can always say, they've been saying Nigeria will fall apart for a very long time. The only country I know, the only country three of us know is Nigeria. We were not born into any other country. So it's usually the older ones that, you know, maybe knew another country or knew before Nigeria's proclamation in 1960 that keep being skeptical. But for us who have this country, we know we're only going to build it further.
All right, Mustafa, I want to know, at what point did the APC decide to go for this Muslim ticket? And before that, I asked this question because some people of the APC have said that the reason that they are going this way is to show to Nigerians that, look, Nigerians should move away from ethnicity, move away from religion, and focus on other things that, you know, that will lead to development and all of that, which is a good thing. But if the APC wanted that as a ruling party, don't you think that the campaign should have started long before now, so that the division would have, the lines of division would have been blurred before now?
Again, these lines of division that we see are usually personal interest that is causing this division. As an individual, as a human being, I think we have priorities, a good life, you know, making good income, having a good family, having a good home. These are things that are priority to human beings. But, you know, when things are not going right, someone comes and says, oh, it's person X or person Y. And that is what is causing the issue right now. You know?
Don't also forget, the people that are angry are not just politicians. Some of the people that have kicked against it are just the ordinary people on the street.
That's what I'm telling you, that when people are hungry and, you know, they don't have a lot to do, it's easy for them to pick up anybody's agenda and run with it. But APC never sat down one day and thought, what do we do? Muslim ticket. That's the way forward. Never. It's never been consideration. Prior to the convention, first it was getting the convention going. You know, everybody said there would be no convention, APC would fall apart. But we had a fantastic convention. Then it came to primaries. They said, oh, you know, we intend to keep the power in the north, so APC is going to collapse, you know. Then we had a fantastic primaries, which everyone even believes that it's the freest and fairest primaries amongst all the parties. Everything was aired nationally, and people were allowed to express themselves. And the delegates went and they voted for who they wanted. Now we have a presidential candidate. That presidential candidate, to a certain extent, has the right to pick who he wants,
now,
based on certain dynamics.
In picking who he wants, you know, we've had how that the choice of the running mate is because, of course, the APC is looking at the northern votes, particularly the Muslim northern votes, which is why some of them have said, or I'll say some of your party members have said, well, if you are to pick a Christian northerner, it may not have, electoral value because you've argued that politics is a game of numbers, and so you are looking at, how someone who can actually pull in the votes for you, and which is why you picked, Kashim Shatima as your running mate. Now, in doing so, has the APC demonstrated politics of unity, politics that seems to emphasize, other inclusivity other than, religion?
I understand what you're saying clearly, but what I'm trying to tell you...
Because clearly there's a responsibility here
yes, absolutely.
For the APC as a leading party to demonstrate leadership by unifying Nigerians. But it doesn't seem like that's the case.
No, what I'm telling you is that it's politicians pulling this. Why, when they're saying power shift, why is no one talking about the PDP fronting a northern candidate? Why is no one talking about that?
People talked about PDP, but let's talk about APC for now.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, that it's just politicians pushing this narrative.
Which politicians you're talking about? Are they politicians of the APC?
There are some in the APC, there are some in the PDP for various interests.
Because
let me tell you why.
Okay.
Because if I'm a northern politician and I'm a Christian and I want sentiments to come to me in the party, I start flaming the fire of shouldn't the people in the north, shouldn't the Christians be carried along? That's one option. People in the PDP, knowing that they don't intend power to shift to the south, will keep pushing the narrative of, Christian, they're not picking a Christian.
So do you then admit that politicians are the architects of this whole thing about
absolutely
religious and ethnic politics?
Absolutely. If you look at a lot
in the decisions of your flag bearer, can we really absolve him of the same thing? We have heard his speeches in Abeokuta where he said, well, it's the turn of the Yorubas. The focus for him was not about what Nigeria is dealing with. It is about the turn of the Yorubas. And that was what brought the slogan, Emilokan, right? Now, we've had that in the southwestern part of the country. Moving down to the north, where the decision about the running mate is to be made, we heard that, we need a Muslim from the north so that we can pool the numbers and all of that. Looking at these scenarios, have your flag bearer demonstrated leadership in terms of unifying the people?
But that's what I'm trying to tell you, is that everybody is trying to push their own agenda. It's about agenda. So if you say the flag bearer is pushing a Muslim candidate, the flag bearer is not pushing a Muslim candidate. The flag bearer has looked at the dynamics and looked at who best can I work with?
What is he pushing if he's not pushing a Muslim?
Hold on, let me finish.
I mean, his running mate is a Muslim.
But
that's why we are having this conversation.
That is not the consideration. The consideration here is first.
The consideration is who can give me the numbers.
Wait, let me finish.
No, the consideration, your party members have said that the consideration is who can pull in the numbers for us. It's a game of numbers.
If you allow me to learn,
if you pick a Christian northerner, will not give you that numbers.
That is you saying.
Basis.
No, that is you saying that.
No, I'm not the one saying.
So allow me to tell you, my party is telling you or telling the whole Nigeria that first of all, it has to do with certain criteria. Who first can the president work with as a person? Competence is high up there. Numbers is also high up there. Carrying people along is also high up there. But if you look at the president, many people have already noticed and said his wife is a reverend. He selected Vice President Yemi Osibanjo, who is a pastor. Therefore, religion has no bearing on the president.
Okay, hold on.
On our incoming president,
Mustafa,
God willing.
Our guest up there, Chibuzo, Mustafa says religion has no bearing here, that in fact it's not Nigerians that are complaining, that it's the politicians because of their interests that are causing all of this. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me say that my friend Mustafa, I'm actually happy with the questions you guys are cleverly able to provide answers to. Yes, politicians are using religion and ethnicity as a rallying point for politics. Is the result of the configuration of the country. We have to know this and not away from it. This country is configured that way. And Nigeria, there is high level of nepotism, and a lot of other manifestations span to ethnicity, religion. This is the reason our fandom, made it compulsory national life to reflect the imbalance that supports you. If you come today, religion is the faith of the people and is an integral aspect of our spiritual and social life. Human beings derive spiritual fulfillment from their religion.
Oh. It appears we're having problems with Chibuzo. Back to Mustafa in the studio. Mustafa, apart from Nigerians just talking.
Today, you will discover that Muslims have prayer points. Even the conveniences, their spiritual cleansing items are provided. Why would you bother do that in a public? Where we should focus on building. You have organizing fellowships and prayer in most assembly, in Asrock Villa, in the Supreme Court, virtually everywhere. Private sector, Transcorp, Hilton Hotel, many other private business recognize the importance of spirituality and make special provisions for the spiritual opportunity of these people. Nobody on national television and argue that the religion of people has no bearing to what they do. How come you are using Quran to Muslim? Use the Bible for Christian. Can we sincere for once?
All right.
Yeah.
The point is
APC Chibuzo there. Well, let's get back to the conversation here in the studio. Chibuzo, are you concerned that this could have some consequences for your party, especially if you look at some members of your party are resigning, some are aggrieved, even some that have remained in the party are showing symptoms of reluctance in terms of going to campaign for the party and all of that.
Especially before he answers, before now, we had about 22 senators threatening to leave the party because of what happened during the primaries, which they claim the alleged imposition and all of that. So the APC was dealing with that, and then this has led to some resignation of some members. So
there's no party that doesn't have one or two issues, but what is pertinent is how you resolve your issues. I think these senators you mentioned went to see Mr. President, led by His Excellency Distinguished Senator Jules Okalu, and they met the President, and it's been resolved.
It wasn't resolved. They said that they were going to give the party time to see what the party would do.
So solutions are being provided, options are being provided. So like I said, it's being resolved. If not, you would have heard that they've defected. So the issue here that we're saying is that those people leaving the party are leaving for their own political reasons. Do you understand? So they are not leaving because...
No, they are leaving because of the decision of the flag bearer.
No, I'm telling you no. They are looking
at... That's the reason that some of them have given.
They may state that as their reasons, but they are not leaving because of that.
Are you sure?
I'm 1,000% sure. Because I will tell you why. I'll tell you why. Let me tell you why.
Let me give you two names. And they clearly spelled it. One of them is one of the legal advisors to your party, Daniel Bola. And he categorically said that because of his beliefs and his convictions, he cannot sell the ticket of a Muslim. He cannot talk to people about it. He cannot sell that ticket. That's one of the persons. He categorically mentioned it. The other one, Senator Ishaku Abo from Adamawa State, also said that he cannot sell this to his people. So, in fact, he has been a member of the Tinubu's. These two persons that I'm talking about were people who have advocated for the emergence of Tinubu as the flag bearer of the APC. and they are saying that they cannot sell this ticket and that they are laying
Let-
back. None
let-
of them
let-
have
let-
resigned.
let me-
now, these
let
are
me
just the
tell
two
you.
that we know. There are a number of others that we have not heard about.
Let me tell you, the first one you mentioned, I don't know, this is the first time, but the second one, I'll tell you, it's simple. The flag bearer of the PDP is from Adamawa State. And in Adamawa, the way some people have calculated it is that Adamawa will vote for their own. Therefore, if you're not supporting their own son, you most likely not get into office. So we've seen a situation where some flag bearers of the APC...
Senator Ishaku Abo
Abo.
was in the PDP and moved into the
to
APC.
Yes, and has
So
seen
it's
that.
not, and
trust
he is
me,
fully aware
and
that
has
the
seen that.
PDP candidate Atiku Abubakar is going to run for the presidency.
And
So
I'm
it's
telling you,
not,
he has made his calculations and seen that being in APC doesn't work for him right now. So he has looked for the best excuse that he can present and hopped so that he doesn't offend anyone. Trust me, it's
but
politics.
Mustafa,
Yes, please.
doesn't it bother you that at a time like this, when the party is supposed to be selling its agenda to the people and telling us what it is that they have to offer, they are busy defending a decision they have made?
It's nothing like that. I'll tell you, in politics, every day something new comes up. Some you ignore, some you have to answer, some you make adjustments. That is politics. So there are many things that are coming up in every single party's agenda and what they are doing pre-election. Enemies are there, enemies from within, enemies from without. So you have to look at it. That's how it is.
So if
it's
Enemies.
politics. It's politics. So if
I like the
somebody
way you
doesn't-
say it's enemies.
Absolutely. If somebody doesn't like you, they're going to look for what they can say about you that other people
Because
can
you have made a
connect.
decision, or maybe because you have presented a platform.
That
so-
they are not happy with. That's all it is. But I would tell you, there is no Nigerian today that you go to any village, your village, or my village, that I go and I tell them, what are the three things you want in your president and your vice president? There's no Nigerian, nowhere in this country that they would say, I want him to be Muslim or I want him to be Christian. They'll never
Well,
say that.
I guess we'll find out by
But mob
20
mentality, when people now say, oh, but he's not a Muslim, or oh, he's not a Christian, then people can start saying, oh, because you now feel like, oh, well, he's not a Christian, I'm a Christian, so I can't relate. Or he's a Muslim, I'm a Christian.
Mustafa, these are interesting times for your party.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to seeing how they are going to deal with this. Eventually, Nigerians are going to go to the polls in 2023.
Absolutely. And we'll win, God willing,
we
inshallah.
will see the outcome.
And we'll provide better governance. And the reason, and we have to
but
be
before we
honest,
go, I
the
want to say
reason
this.
all these things are issues
before we
is
go-
because we haven't done our best. We should have been better than this, but we will be better, God willing.
Before we go, I'd like you to answer.
Yes.
You said Ishaku Sabo is taking his decision because his state is, he has a flag bearer in his state and all that. What would you then say to a group of APC members, Christian APC members from the north, who have released a statement 2 days ago saying that they are not going to sell this ticket to their people?
Who is behind the group is the question. So there is a Christian northern, most likely APC aspirant or candidate or somewhere that feels that, oh, it should have been me.
And all of that shouldn't concern you? I mean,
no,
you
it's
mean
not
that all
it
of this doesn't
concern
bother
me.
you?
It is. But what I'm saying is that by focusing on what unites us rather than divides us, that is how we provide better governance. To some degree, you have to, ignore some. To some degree, you must answer some. And to some degree, you must appease.
Okay,
people.
all right. I think we should go to Chibuzo.
Let's get final thoughts from Chibuzo. Just a minute. Yes, you can go ahead.
And say that APC has chosen to take us back into the and ignored the very important nation building and promoting Nigeria as a one indivisible country as envisaged in our constitution. That indivisibility of our nation is anchored on oneness, is anchored on inclusion, on equity and justice. And what we
Well, it appears that we have network issues, but
an APC jet APC ticket to unite with political parties who have shown sensitivity to the configuration of our country.
all right. Thank you, Chibuzo. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your perspectives with us. Sorry, because of time, we have to go. Chibuzo is the convener of the National Political Equity Movement, and he joins us virtually from Asaba. And then we've had in the studio as well Mustafa Audu, leader of the Progressive Youth Movement, talking to us about the decision of his party.